Welcome to this edition of Healthy Habits. I'm your host, Amy Travers, and with us today is Jeannie Peters. She's a registered dietitian and the director of the Nourishing Wellness Center in Redondo Beach. Today, Jeannie is going to talk to us about pregnancy nutrition, and we're going to break it down through each trimester and even the fourth trimester, which is the postpartum period. Jeannie, welcome back. It's so great to be here with you.
So great to see you, too.
It's been like, what, 2 years? 2 years.
Well, this is our pregnant mom.
Yeah, well, I'm not pregnant anymore. So this topic's really personal to me, as you know, because I had a baby recently, this little guy over here. And when I first got pregnant, I didn't get a lot of dietary advice from my doctor. I was basically told, don't drink alcohol, don't gain a lot of weight, and take your prenatals. And as you know, there's so much more that goes into a healthy pregnancy.
One of the first things is it's really great if you could have met with a registered dietitian who could have really helped to guide you through those important trimesters.
So Jeannie, what would be the first thing you would recommend to someone, let's say, planning on getting pregnant, that's not pregnant yet?
I think that's a really key point, is just even in the planning stages, there's so much evidence right now that eating well can actually help improve fertility.
So cleaning up your diet helps
Absolutely.
with fertility for sure.
Yes.
And then what would be the very first thing that you would recommend any pregnant woman in general to do, not just broken down by trimester, like all the basics, something that carries you through each trimester?
Well, we certainly want to stay well hydrated, drinking plenty of water, and then being aware that, your calories do count. So this isn't a time where you just want to feel like you can binge out, on your favorite foods. You want to make those calories count at each trimester.
Great. So right away, a lot of water and more calories.
And key nutrients, which we'll get into.
Great. So right away, we're told to take a prenatal vitamin.
Yes.
What is the key things we should really be looking for in a good prenatal to get us started?
I think one of the key things is iron, because iron is one of those things that is so important in that first trimester because you're building the blood network that's going to feed the baby.
Okay.
Many of the prenatals already have the iron in there, but recognize that iron is helping to build up your red blood cells so you have the energy to be able to sustain this additional work that's happening in the body.
Right. What's another key thing in a good prenatal that we should be looking for?
You want to get zinc for your immunity because you're actually, your immunity gets stressed as the baby is starting to grow. And then you also want to support the baby's immune system. So zinc is really associated with great immunity. And you find that naturally in a lot of your nutrient-dense foods like grass-fed meat or lamb or eggs. Another food, of course, is folate. So you think of any of your leafy greens, you're going to get plenty of folate. And that's really one of the things that helps to build up the central nervous system. It helps to optimize genetics so that, the optimal genetic profile is being produced in this baby.
Right.
Plenty of leafy greens.
Lots of kale.
And then, certainly, certain things. Well, we can get into some of these other ones as well.
Yeah. So we're going to start right now in the first trimester then. So we went over up your calories.
Right.
We went over a good prenatal and lots of water.
Correct.
So what would be another great thing to get started? Do you want to show us maybe a couple food sources of some of these proteins?
Yeah, I think really it's really important just to know that protein, the woman is needing at least another 15 to 25 grams during that first trimester.
Wow.
So if you can get that like in a half a cup of cottage cheese, if you can get that in, a serving of salmon, which, this is a 3-ounce portion. This also has the omega-3 fatty acids that are so essential for helping to build a good nervous system. Some of the other fish that I think is important is sardines or actually even herring.
Sardines have a lot of calcium, which is interesting.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that because you want that strong bone network. And then for vegans, think of something like tempeh, which is basically
fermented soy.
And it's in a form that's a little bit easier to break down. And then even lentils are just such an amazing source of protein. So having a steady supply of lentil soup could be really a great way of helping to support the nutrition of the mother.
All right, Jeannie. Now, moving on to the second trimester, what would you recommend as something that women should focus on really in this middle stage of pregnancy now?
It's really important to think in terms of structure. The baby is developing its brain and it's really increasing the nervous system and the bones. So you want to be thinking of calcium, of course, for helping to build strong bones, but also healthy fats. So your omega-3 fatty acids are really critical because that's supporting not only the production, the developing brain, which is growing very rapidly in that second semester, but also that incredible nervous system that's building up throughout the entire baby.
Right, so that's things going to be like fish,
Absolutely.
salmon, sardines, and then Also, prenatals, I just want to point out, some of them come, like mine came with DHA, which is a great healthy omega, but my other prenatal here doesn't. So that's another option you can look for if you're not sure you're getting enough through your foods.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Jeannie, before we move into the third trimester, I know there's a couple things we didn't touch on, like, for example, vitamin D. I know a lot can be said about vitamin D supplementation in general, but especially in pregnancy.
Well, vitamin D, first of all, it turns on 400 genes, so that helps the baby optimize its full potential. But the second thing is just that we know that women who have very low vitamin D are more likely to have preeclampsia or eclampsia. They're more likely to miscarriage. So vitamin D is really critical for immune building.
It's a big deal.
Yes.
So it's hard to get that from your foods, right?
It really is. Vitamin D is one of those things that we naturally got it from the sun. And these days, of course, everybody is living indoors and people are putting lots of sunscreen on, so they're blocking that full spectrum of light. But I think for mothers, it's a great time to allow yourself to get out, take a walk out in nature, and make sure that some of that time, particularly early in the morning or later in the day, you're exposing everything exposed.
Exactly. And the next thing I want to touch on is choline.
Sure.
Choline is really important, and we know that there's not necessarily adequate amounts of it in our prenatal, so it's really important that we're getting extra of that, right, Jeannie?
Yeah, and one of the best sources for choline is going to be eggs. Yeah, and it's the choline is found in the yolk. Yeah, and the yolk, that deep dark color that you find with pasture raised eggs, or these are my eggs from my chickens, so I know I've got plenty of choline. Is one of those things that helps to build the brain and also the nervous system.
All right, moving on to the third trimester, Jeannie, what would you say is the really important takeaway at this point that a woman needs to know to carry her through the end of her pregnancy and through childbirth?
I think there's, again, just making sure that you're getting adequate calories. This isn't a time that you want to be binging on some of your favorite foods. You want every calorie to count, and you're going to need that, to get you through into the very end. You want to be able to have adequate calories, but also keeping up with your nutrients. And then finally, thinking about certain kinds of foods that you could probably get away with that are now proven to help improve a healthy delivery. And one of those is dates.
Yes.
Yeah, so
there's been studies done that say eating dates, I think it's 36 weeks on, can actually help you dilate faster, which is great because labor can be really long.
Yes,
and it's miserable. So anything that helps, and they're kind of tasty. I like
6
them in
dates
smoothies.
would be a perfect dose. That's what has been found to be, the best.
And then water too, right? That's something that we want to keep up all the way through the pregnancy.
Good
and then
point.
This leads us into the fourth trimester, also the postpartum trimester. So say a woman's had her baby, she's just delivered. Does she go back to her old way of eating? Or does she have to continue on with kind of some of the things she's been doing while she's pregnant?
Well, hopefully this is a mom that's going to breastfeed.
Yeah.
That we know is going to be the healthiest thing for a child.
Yeah.
The second thing, though, is that if you are breastfeeding, you want to make sure that you're getting adequate amount of calories. And a woman's going to need at least 500 additional calories just for the production of breast milk.
So that's 200 more than the pregnancy.
Right. So you want, and that, any woman who breastfeeds will tell you they're constantly hungry. So your cottage cheese, making sure that you're getting adequate protein, getting a little bit more of those extra greens, and then water is going to be so important just to be able to help produce plenty of milk to feed that growing baby.
Great. Well, Jeannie and I really hope that this episode was helpful to some of you mamas out there expecting babies, also in the planning stages. And Jeannie, it's always so great to work with you. It's great to have you back.
Thanks, Amy. It's really been fun to be here today.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Healthy Habits. We'll see you next time.